Welcome to the deep dive. You know that feeling, right? You've got this great idea, something you really, really want to pursue.
hmm
But then there's that little voice nagging, saying, hang on, not quite yet. Wait.
Oh, yeah. Wait until everything's perfect.
Exactly. Just right. We've
Yeah.
all felt that. And today we're going to really dig into why that urge, that need to wait for the perfect conditions, might actually be, well, holding us back.
It's a really common thing. And the sources you share, they give a fascinating perspective on this.
They really do. So our mission today, essentially, is to unpack this whole concept of perfect timing. Is it real? Is it a myth?
And what's maybe a better way to think about getting started based on what we've looked at?
Okay, let's dive straight in then. One of the first big ideas is this illusion, really, of perfect conditions.
Right. The idea that some ideal future state exists where everything just clicks into place.
Yeah, and the sources hit it right away with those phrases we all use. I'll start tomorrow.
Definitely next week or when things calm down.
Huh, yeah, when things calm down. Like that ever truly happens consistently.
Exactly. The core point seems to be that we're waiting for this static, perfect moment in a world that's, well, it's constantly changing,
So the target's always moving.
pretty much.
Yeah.
What looks perfect today might be totally wrong tomorrow. External factors shift, internal feelings change.
So waiting for that fixed point, it's kind of futile.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
And interestingly, the waiting itself isn't neutral. It can actually make things harder.
How so?
Well, the sources suggest that the longer you wait, the more ingrained the habit of not starting becomes.
Yeah.
Procrastination digs its heels in.
Ah, okay. And maybe fear and doubt start to creep in more too.
Precisely. The delay can amplify those feelings. You build up more reasons not to do it, paradoxically.
That makes sense. It feels safer to wait though, doesn't it? Like you're being responsible, doing your homework.
It definitely feels rational. I need to be prepared. I want to do it right the first time.
But underneath that, what's really driving the wait?
Often, it's things like a fear of failure, plain and simple,
Hmm.
or maybe insecurity about whether we're actually capable right now.
It's that comfort zone trap again, staying where it feels known, even if it means not moving forward.
Because stepping out means risking mistakes, right? And growth often involves those very mistakes.
And the material kind of maps out how that waiting escalates. It starts with soon,
Then it slides to later,
then maybe a vague sometime.
and before you know it, sometime can quietly turn into never.
Oof. That's a sobering thought. It's a slippery slope.
It really can be. And this links directly to the whole issue of perfectionism, which the sources tackle head on.
Right. This belief that everything has to be absolutely flawless before you even begin.
Your equipment, your plan, your website,
Mm.
even your own mindset.
Like you need the perfect business model completely figured out on day one.
Exactly. Or the perfect first draft, the perfect strategy.
But the argument here is that chasing that perfection, it actually leads to stagnation, doesn't it?
Yes. It becomes this barrier. You're always feeling not quite ready or not good enough to start.
It creates this impossible standard before you've even taken step one.
There's a great analogy used. It's like waiting for all the traffic lights in the city to turn green before you start driving.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd never leave the driveway.
Precisely. It illustrates the paralysis perfectly. You're waiting for an alignment that just doesn't happen in reality.
So the key takeaway here is that growth doesn't happen before you start.
It happens through the process of starting and doing.
Okay, so if waiting for perfection is basically a trap, what's the alternative proposed?
Momentum. It's all about momentum. Taking action, any action, creates movement.
And that movement itself generates clarity.
That's the idea. It flips the script.
Yeah.
We often think we need clarity before we act.
Right, like have the whole map figured out.
But the sources suggest clarity often comes from the acting, from the experience itself.
So it's more like start walking and the path becomes clearer as you go.
Exactly. It's iterative.
Yeah.
You get feedback maybe from the world, maybe just internally. You learn, you adjust, you adapt.
That makes sense. It's less about a perfect launch and more about a continuous process.
Yes. And that initial push, that first step, is defined as momentum, the energy, the drive. That's presented as far more critical than endless planning.
Building that forward motion.
That's what separates doing from just thinking about doing.
Which inevitably brings us to the topic of mistakes. The thing perfectionism tries so hard to avoid.
Yes. Mistakes. The sources point out, quite rightly, how we're often conditioned, school, maybe work, to see errors as failures, bad things.
Definitely. Red marks on a paper, poor performance reviews. Mistakes are penalized.
But the counterargument presented is really powerful. Mistakes are actually the fastest way to learn,
How so?
because each mistake gives you direct, concrete feedback on what doesn't work, or what could work better. It's invaluable data.
So trying to avoid mistakes by delaying action, you're actually missing out on the learning.
You're missing out on the crucial lessons you need to actually improve and move forward.
Right.
It's quite paradoxical.
The fear of getting it wrong prevents you from ever getting it right.
Nailed it. And that's why there's this encouragement to just start imperfectly.
Embrace the messiness of the beginning.
Yes.
Mm.
The sources mention things like your first attempt at something creative, maybe your first product version, your first podcast episode. It might not be great.
Probably won't be.
And that's okay. Being okay with being bad at something initially is apparently a necessary step towards eventually becoming good at it.
You have to be willing to be a beginner.
You absolutely do. Think about any skill you have now. You weren't born with it.
True. There was definitely a learning curve. Lots of fumbling around.
Right. Experimentation, missteps, course corrections. That is the process of getting proficient.
So the focus really shifts then. It's less about waiting for the world outside to be perfect.
And much more about your own internal decision to act, your own agency.
Success isn't about perfect conditions falling into your lap.
No. It's driven by your action, your commitment, your courage, really. The courage to begin.
And the sources point to examples, right? People we admire, entrepreneurs, creators.
Visionaries, yeah. They didn't wait.
Yeah.
They started where they were, often with very little.
They didn't have the perfect setup from day one.
Far from it. It was their actions, their experiments, their willingness to make mistakes and learn. They created the conditions that now might look perfect from the outside.
So action creates the conditions rather than waiting for them.
That's a key insight. You start with what you have right now, even if it feels small or uncertain.
And that first step itself can be transformative.
Absolutely. The sources talk about how just taking that initial action can change your energy, how you see yourself.
And maybe even how the environment responds to you.
Yes. It can open doors, reveal opportunities you couldn't even see when you're just standing still, planning.
It's like the act of starting sends out a signal, maybe.
Perhaps. It shows intent. And the world, it seems, often responds to initiative. You might be surprised what comes back.
Okay, so wrapping this up for you, the listener, the big takeaway from this deep dive really seems to be forget waiting for perfect conditions.
They're largely a myth, or rather they aren't found by waiting.
They're created by the act of starting, even when it feels messy, even when you're not totally sure.
Right, so if you feel that little spark inside, that sense that there's something more you want to do or be,
Don't wait for some imaginary future green light.
the time isn't out there somewhere. It's right here, right now, with what you've got.
Because, and this is the thought we want to leave you with, the perfect moment. Well, it's always the moment you decide to stop waiting.
Chew on that one. Stop waiting. Start doing.